Hey Ryan,
Yeah.
naked.
Naked. You said naked. Like that.
Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required.
We're the podcast that recaps all the episodes of The Big Bang Theory. No spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot
Make yourself a grasshopper
and enjoy the ride.
Hello there, Ryan.
Hello, Rob.
Are you ready to get back on the whores?
I am ready to get back on the horse.
Well, we just watched season 3, episode 23, the season 3 finale of The Big Bang Theory, the Lunar Excitation. For any new listeners out there, I'm Rob. This is my co-host Ryan, and we are Theoretical Nonsense, the podcast that recaps, reviews, and deep dives facts from The Big Bang Theory, which we call IQ points. As a reminder to everyone, I've seen the series multiple times, but this is Ryan's first time watching, so we do our best to do no spoilers. And Ryan,
Just call me Sheldon.
You're Sheldon. I know the point tally. We do a point tally of Ryan and Jesus. I'm all over the place right now. Ryan has been told that he's very similar to Sheldon, so we keep a point tally of how close Ryan is to Sheldon.
And right now, it's almost neck and neck. It's 99 points, not like Sheldon, 100 like Sheldon.
You're Shelley. Let's face it.
I don't know. This episode could throw things in a different way.
Oh.
Dun, dun, dun. I had a few surprises in here.
Well, I look forward to hearing about them. A little bit of housekeeping before we dive in. Don't forget to email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. Leave us a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. That's it, at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. It's been a little quiet on there. I have not had time to update that, but I will get back to it at some point.
We're Rob's just moved, and I've had some home remodeling. We're getting back into things with the new year coming around, the new season. We're gonna be back at it.
I hope so. I've been picking up a lot more new projects at work.
Oh no!
Honestly, I've been doing a lot of extracurricular things at work. Like I think I mentioned this like 6 months ago. Yeah, still taking that online class. Still haven't finished it. I'm dedicated to finishing that first. Like that's like my priority. Sorry,
you can do it.
This podcast and that class is like my priority. I will get it done, and then I can dive into new things, like updating our Instagram.
Yeah, it'll be there waiting.
Yes.
Instagram's not going anywhere.
You're all at the edge of your seat for the next post. I know it.
We learn tomorrow Instagram has gone out of business. Like, what? Oh no, it's not there.
I guess I'll sign up for Notagram. And this episode actually launches right before Halloween.
Ooh,
yeah.
Spooky.
So do you have any Halloween plans this year?
So Halloween's like in the middle of the week, but I'm
it's your holiday, man.
Yeah, I'll probably stay home and celebrate and watch horror movies. I love handing out candy. It's just that's an adult thing for me to say, I suppose, but I like the dog loves watching all the kids come up. Every time the doorbell rings, she's like, who is it? Who is it? I'm like, we got to get the candy. I wish I could afford like king-size bars. I used to do when I lived in Nebraska, king-size bars for all the kids, but now it's like I get almost 100 kids visiting each year. And like I maybe not 100, but probably over 60, I would say. It gets really busy. Yeah, that's a little
king size then.
I wish I could.
Well, I'm taking a chance, and I always wanted to be the house that gave away the king size bars. This year, I'm trying it in the brand new neighborhood. I hope I have enough because, like, it's a new neighborhood. I know that there's like a ton of kids, but I don't know what the foot traffic is going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I have Costco had some good sales on the full size bars, so I bought some.
And you can always plan it out too. Like if it's in the middle of the week, you're going to have fewer kids come by. If it's raining, you're going to have fewer kids come by. It's like all these mathematic probabilities that I'm just not used to doing. But yeah, this year I think if I wanted to do it, if it was a Friday night, I would probably say no. Those little bastards are going to make way to your house like until it's midnight. We want those king size. We heard you had king size bars, and we've come all the way from Altoona.
Oh God. Yeah. I don't know what it's going to be like over here. Like they announced, like they're going to have like a big like Halloween parade thing over the weekend, for, like the kids and everything. So I know we're participating in that. But then like the day of Halloween, who knows what's going to happen?
We might go on a little trip. Kelsey has some spare hotel reservations that didn't get used, and she had to move them around. So we might do a little Halloween theme trip to Portland. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but we've been talking about and looking at some haunted mansions to visit and break into. That's
that was always fun back in the day. Yeah. Go to cemeteries, go to haunted locations, little breaking and entering, you know.
This isn't even haunted, it's just some guy's apartment. I know.
This is a 7-Eleven, Ryan.
It's a haunted one. This is the public library, and we're going to read scary books. Halloween.
Are you going to dress up?
I haven't thought about it yet. I don't think so yet, but maybe. Every other year I've tried it, like something's gone wrong, and like either my costume wasn't completed or what was it? A couple of years ago I was supposed to do it with a friend and be a Adventure Time pair. And he didn't tell me that he was canceling, so I just went around as like a blue guy, and like, what the fuck? I'm like, it would make a lot more sense if I wasn't alone in this. So
you could have just said that you're the Blue Man group.
I'm the Blue Man. I went solo. I hated the other Blue Man.
It's my solo career.
How about you? Any costume ideas?
Well, I'm really looking like it's hard because Hunter. He's going to be turning 2 years old, like on the day of the Halloween parade on October 26th. He's turning 2 years old, but he's still so young that he's still not fully aware of everything that's really happening. So getting him dressed up as a family thing seems a little pointless. So we're gonna wait for like the big spectacle next year, but this year we have like a little bear onesie outfit that we got from like last year, so it's gonna keep him warm and he looks like a little bear. So we're gonna do that, and I have a onesie too. I always put on my I got a new one last year. I got Spider-Man. So
nice.
Yeah, and we'll see if Christina dresses up. She may or may not.
So every now and then, like something comes to me that works really well. A couple of years ago, I might have remembered it, but I dressed up as Jack Torrance from The Shining. Stanley Kubrick Shining.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
like I just happened to have like clothes, and like I was looking at them one day, I'm like, holy shit! If I mix these, I'm Jack Torrance, and it turned out really well. So maybe I'll get some spark of innovation, creativity hit me, but right now it's not there. So maybe.
Well, if you do dress up, send some pictures, and I could post on the Instagram.
Oh yeah.
I'll try to post some pictures of my adventures on there too.
Little Hunter Bear.
Yep, Hunter Bear.
Hunter Bear.
Spoiler alert, he's adorable.
That's how we get the new listeners, is the adorable baby. It's not going to be this mug, this face.
Definitely not. You're scaring away people.
Exactly.
That beard. Yeah.
Halloween. Oh no.
All right. Well, let's get back to Big Bang Theory. Should we talk overall thoughts?
Yeah, I think
Season three
so.
finale.
It's the
So-
finale. We have probably one of the biggest turns in the series, from my understanding. Again, I haven't seen it. I just kind of knew something was coming up, and new character, so that's going to be a huge turning point in some ways. But as far as I was kind of frustrated with Penny's character in this episode and the way it ends with her and Leonard. And, I wasn't expecting miracles, but I kind of put some notes and some stuff to talk about because I had a couple of issues with how things went down.
Yeah, I didn't love this episode. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great. I watched it multiple times, just like always, just to kind of but each time I watched it, I was like, I'm enjoying it less and less each time I'm watching it. I just felt like there really weren't a lot of great jokes. I think a lot of the jokes were kind of cheap, like all this stuff, like the moon burn, men with boobs, Leonard being upset that he got used for sex, all the stuff with Yeehaw. It's like this is all like really cheap laughs, and it just wasn't really that great. Like you said, it's a big turning point. So like the overall story arc of it, I loved. I liked where they were going with it. I liked what they did with it. I just felt like the execution was a little lazy.
Yeah. And there were a couple things that I'm like, that hits the point. Getting us to the new character, I enjoyed that. But what was going on with Penny and Leonard, not so much. And the thing is, I couldn't resist. I had to watch the next episode, season 1 or season 4, episode 1, and that's fucking funny. I had to leave the room.
I just censored that gesture out.
So I'm whatever they didn't use in here, they definitely use in the next episode. They still got it going, but yeah, like you said, there were some cheap laughs, and yeah, a couple issues. I'm curious to get your sides of it when we get through it and talk about it. And I think some of my IQ points might bring into question some of the legitimacy of what they're talking about in some of this.
Ooh. All right. So I look forward to this. So let's dive in. You're taking lead.
I'm taking. Season 3, episode 23, aired May 24th, 2010. Director Peter Chakos. Writers Chuck Lorre, Bill Prady, and Lee Aronson. So we open up of the gang on the rooftop doing an experiment with the moon. Sheldon makes a joke, like you said, that he needs an umbrella because with his fair skin, he's going to get a moon burn. And I think the real joke is that Howard's like, oh, is that a bazinga? And Sheldon's like, one of my best. And like you said, I still wasn't really laughing at that. It's just like, okay.
I disagree with that. The best bazinga ever was in, I re-looked it up. It was from the gorilla experiment. This past, like, while ago on this season, it was season 3, episode 10, when he made a comment on Howard's shoes. Your shoes are delightful. Bazinga, I don't care. That was his best bazinga. And if anybody else has some thoughts on Sheldon's best bazinga, feel free to email us.
And if you want it to be an upcoming episode, I'll let Rob read the email and he can share it if he feels like it's necessary. But yeah, or anything that's happened. Okay, so yeah, I think that's probably. I'd have to look back through them, but that was a good one. For some reason, I think there was one that I can picture him like in the kitchen saying it, but I can't. I'll find it for our.
You'll have to look it up.
Episode. Yeah. So Leonard asked Howard to double check the equatorial mount on the laser. They need it to be focused on the Sea of Tranquility. And so this is right away the first IQ point. I wanted to know what they were doing. And I kind of brought in some information they bring up later. So this is kind of a mix of definitions and what they're doing and how they're doing it from throughout the episode, or at least the first 10 minutes or so. But what they are doing is, and most of this is from Wikipedia, they are lunar ranging. It's the practice of measuring the distance between Earth and the moon using lasers. And basically, they're shooting a laser up to the moon, and it's bouncing off, coming back, and they are kind of pinging. They're timing how long it takes the laser to get there and back, and figuring out the distance. The first thing I want to say is that from the pics I saw, the laser is actually green. And I was kind of skeptical. I'm like, isn't the laser like going to be invisible or red? But like from the pics I saw of lasers doing lunar ranging, like they had green lasers. So I thought that was pretty cool. But so what happens is they have a laser on Earth, and they shoot up the laser to some reflector on the moon. And apparently there are several reflectors on the moon. They only mentioned the one from Apollo 11, but apparently Apollo 11, 14, and 15 all laid different reflectors on the moon. Apparently the Soviet Lunar 1 and 2 missions also laid reflectors, and India's Chandrayaan 3 mission also laid a reflector. So technically they could have used other reflectors, but they are referencing the Apollo 11 one, so that's a real one. And all these other ones, from my understanding, were on the moon at the time of making this episode. Apparently there's been some changes in how some of these lasers get used in later years, and since like 2010, but for the most part, this is all works. Apparently, they could actually also use the moon's surface, because the moon's surface does reflect light and radio waves, but using the reflectors from this helps with the specifics a little bit more. It helps the temporal spread, that is the reflected signal is much smaller. So basically, there's more reflection, and it's a smaller area. It's more specific, I guess. And you can see, like, if you're hitting like a huge moon and it's coming back and all of it's still spreading, if you're hitting one specific area and it gets flashed back, it's not going to spread quite as much by the time it gets back to Earth. So that brought me to what's an equatorial mount. And that is a mount for a telescope or some sort of device that compensates for the Earth's rotation, which makes sense because if you're focused on the moon and the Earth is rotating, after 10 minutes, the moon is going to have moved out of focus because the Earth is rotating in that 10 minutes. So it's basically got this mechanism, a drive, that helps make sure that it stays focused on one element as the Earth continues to spin. Another device they mentioned, they say they have a 2-meter parabolic reflector. So apparently, parabolic reflector is, from my understanding, it's a satellite dish. It's a unit with a reflective surface used to collect or project energy. It's got its name, parabolic, from parabola, which is a symmetrical U-shaped cone, and it's used to kind of condense the rays into a single spot. If it were shooting rays, like if you can think of like a spotlight, it would have the light in the middle and all the rays would like hit the reflective surface and shoot outwards. But in this case, it's collecting all the rays and condensing them into one spot, from my understanding. They also mentioned having a photo multiplier. And this is some sort of device, and I started getting into this and it got pretty confusing, but it's a device that converts photons into electrical signals. So basically, they're getting these rays that are reflected, lasers reflected from the moon. They're condensing them, and there's still not a whole lot. So they are kind of converting them and upgrading them, multiplying those photons into signals that they can actually record and, create data on and make information, I suppose. And what else? I found that them wearing glasses is actually highly recommended, that for a couple things. According to the University of California, San Diego, protective glasses are used that only allow 1/10 millionth of a laser to pass through. And I kind of got confused. I looked into all these specifications for goggles and laser goggles, and they have a lot of different ones for different lasers. And all I could find out is that they're really expensive, and prepare to pay for like $200 to $300 for one pair of goggles. And you also need like a lot of specifics on wavelengths and that information. But they say that once the laser beam fills a 3.5 meter telescope aperture, it's far less dangerous, almost eye safe. So basically, my understanding is once it hits the moon and comes back, like they say, it's not necessarily visible to the naked eye. It's not really going to harm the eye, but it's better to play safe than sorry. My understanding is if you accidentally pointed the laser directly at your eye when it fired, that's a problem, and that's why you want to wear the goggles. But also, when it hits the moon and comes back, it's just better to be safe. They mentioned it and compared it to a 2.3 watt laser spread over a 2 kilometer patch of the moon is nothing compared to the sun's 1,380 watts per square meter. So basically, what we face from the sun every day is a lot worse than what the lasers are they're working with. But we don't look at the sun directly, and most of us wear sunglasses. So it's just kind of put things into reference that the laser isn't really that powerful or scary, but it's better to be safe. This website also mentioned that they have to be careful with pilots, that sometimes like the lasers can freak pilots out a little bit. And they mentioned that there was a quote on there that they've had pilots, from my understanding, pilots ask them, why would you want to destroy the moon with a laser? And that brings up the question that comes up in the episode. So I thought it was kind of funny that this website actually mentions the question that gets brought up, that it seems like they're trying to destroy the moon. So apparently that's not that unheard of a question.
It's not that dumb of a question then.
Exactly. And that's something about what one of the characters, Zach, that comes up. I don't feel like he's as dumb as they make him out to be. He sounds kind of dumb, but I don't think he's as dumb as they make him sound. And so I did the last part. It takes him 2.5 seconds to calculate distance to the moon and back. And that is apparently how long it usually takes to get a laser to the moon and back. Of course, this depends on several different factors, including different motions and rotations, tectonic motions, crust motions, things that I didn't really know what they were, but for this, I'm just going to summarize. But apparently also the speed of light in different atmospheres and air qualities, I suppose, can change how fast the light's moving. And it says even the tides of the Earth can, in fact, how fast and the distance, not the distance, but the traveling light, the laser beam, and how long it takes to get to the moon and back. But apparently the distance averages about 385,000.5 kilometers, or that's 238,228.3 miles between the center of the Earth and the center of the moon. And I don't know how they got the center if we're going off the surfaces, but that's what the website said. And again, maybe there's more mathematics to calculate the distance to the center of each, but for the most part, they had this right on the type of equipment they need, the time it would take, the distance, and so on and so on. But it was my understanding that it's probably pretty good conditions, pretty clear weather, no clouds or anything causing problems, no, I don't know, special tidal waves causing problems. So yeah, about 2.5 seconds. But yeah, I was that was one IQ point that I wasn't surprised that they got like everything right. Everything I could find was right on. Did you have anything else on that one?
Yeah, I actually did an IQ point on this one too, but you captured that very well. The only thing that I could really add to this is I also looked into why else is lunar ranging even a thing? I mean, how often do we, I mean, they put those shiny plates there just to, it can't be just to measure the distance between the Earth and the moon.
Yeah.
But granted, that is like the primary reason, and they can actually measure it within like a millimeter of precision. It's kind of crazy how accurate it really is.
Yeah.
But using this technique, they have also discovered that the moon is ever so slightly moving away from the Earth. Because they keep measuring the distance, and it slightly, over time, is moving further and further away.
Where are you going, Moon? You got a hot date? Are we not good for you?
It's going to leave us in like 1,000 years.
That's terrifying.
Well, don't quote me on that. I'm just saying that.
1,000,000 years, 1,000 years. It doesn't matter. It's leaving us. It's going to leave us empty and single.
Yep. And through this technique, they somehow, I didn't look into how they figured it out, but they figured out using this technique that the moon actually has a liquid core.
Interesting. This is a lot of, some of the stuff in this episode was like a lot more mathematics than I'm really used to, but it's really cool what they're able to deduce and conclude with this stuff. It's awesome. What type of liquid?
Didn't say.
I bet it's milk.
It was because the cows are over the moon.
The cows are over the moon. You got to put their milk somewhere when they're up there.
But yeah, I found that on NASA, University of San Diego, and Space.com. So not just Wikipedia for all the people who are going to shit all over us.
Some Wikipedia, so you can shit a little bit on us. Mostly me. But yeah, some University of California. Okay, but
but I was going to say, I was going to guess that they're used specifically targeting the reflector from the Apollo 11 mission, because that actually was the original one. That was the first reflector that they placed on there. So I would imagine because of that, it has some more significant scientific value to them.
And they're not doing this to like prove anything that hasn't been proven. They're doing this for fun. So it's like you said, sentimental and nostalgic, and kind of like, oh, we're like part of the scientific community type thing.
Neil Armstrong littered that giant piece of metal on the moon.
It's like, fuck, I don't need the scrap of metal. He threw it. And they're like, what do you do? It's a reflector, bitches. Reflect stuff off it.
I'm just going to go ahead and leave that right here.
They also had like a bag of used diapers and shower shit.
And that's where the other dirty sock went.
That's the other dirty sock. Neil Armstrong. Rat bastard. And I also found on top of that, like, apparently this is stuff that you really can't do as an amateur. Like, you need like professional grade equipment, from what I was saying, that it's quite a bit more technical, and that they are probably using stuff from their school. It's not just their own home brewed or home
assembled equipment.
Yeah, assembled. Yeah, it's not what everybody has.
Like a robotic arm, they probably just borrowed it from work.
Borrowed it for their own special needs. So Raj it looks like he's spying on somebody, and I like this line from Howard saying, billions have been spent on the internet so that we don't have to look through telescopes to see naked women. Good for Howard, because that's what the internet is there for.
Yeah.
And Raj says, no, he misunderstands. He's watching The Good Wife. And Sheldon starts flipping out. He has found a dirty sock, just one dirty sock.
Oh, side note. I just wanted to make a little note on The Good Wife and Grey's Anatomy. Leonard's mom, Christine Baranski, is actually in The Good Wife. I looked up the IMDb, and she's a character on there.
Have you watched any of it?
No, but I heard it was really good.
I've seen a couple episodes, and from my understanding, it was like called The Good Wife, and then like she quit or got killed off, and they call it The Good Fight or something. I don't.
Wait, the main character got killed off?
I think so. I'm gonna look this up.
Spoiler.
Yeah, it's spoiled for me, so. Misery loves company.
So we're gonna spoil it for everybody.
This is a spoiler-free podcast for Big Bang Theory. I make no promises of any other shit.
Well, while you're looking that up, I was going to say that at this point, right now, Grey's Anatomy just started its season 21. I can't believe that shit's still going on.
I can't either. That just are any of the characters originals? Like most of them have died off, right? They've been shot. There's a plane
The main
crash.
character, Meredith Grey, is still in it.
Just Grey. She's the only one. Oh,
well, I didn't look at the other IMDb. I stopped watching after like season 5 or 6.
I think I made it to like what season are they on now? Did you say
21?
I want to say I made it to like 17.
And oh my God, that's some dedication, right?
Kelsey was like, "We have to finish this." I got to 17. I'm like, "This fucking show's not ending. It is a soap opera, and I'm done. I did my time. I'm out." Yeah. And she's like, "I might watch it on my own. I don't think she's ever gonna finish it on there. I don't think it's gonna end."
It definitely got to some story arcs that were just, I understand it's a drama, but it was so out there that I was like, I can't. Like this makes zero sense. I'm not even talking about the medical stuff. I'm talking about like the things with their relationships. It's like, why are they hooking up? That makes no sense. I can't. You're just doing it because like you can.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They can, and they're like, "Oh, this is going to surprise people. Let's do it." Yeah. And I'm like, no.
It's like, no. No. Can't. Done.
And then I stopped caring about like any of the characters, and they would add new ones. And like, I don't care about these characters. I just and if you don't care about the characters, why watch stuff that doesn't even work for you?
Yeah.
So apparently, The Good Fight is a spin-off of The Good Wife, focusing on a law partner. So it's basically a spin-off, but kind of the same show. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't really get into it. It just didn't really work for me. But apparently, it's a spin-off.
It's no Big Bang Theory.
It's no Big Bang Theory. Or Young Sheldon, which I don't know. I haven't seen any Young Sheldon, so
is good. I caught up to it, and then like when you like binge watch a show that's still ongoing, like you're 3 seasons, but like you start it when they were finishing season 3. That's when I started watching it, and then I watched it. I caught up, and then I just never picked it up again because you kind of just forgot. So I will pick it up again. It is really good. I really like it.
There's another show that I completely forgot I was watching, and now I've forgotten again. But I was like thinking,
was
yesterday,
it Grey's
like,
Anatomy?
Oh God, yes, it was. It was something else. I'm like, I used to watch that. What happened? I just forgot about it. Oh wow. I was gonna say that as far as spin-offs go, I don't think the new Frasier is as good as the old Frasier, but I'm enjoying it. And I think that they could pick up their momentum. I think they're still working on defining their characters, and some of them are working well. And there are these shining moments where I'm like, this is what made the original Frasier great. And I can see that they're still some of the same humor. And so as far as spin-offs go, I think they can be done well. I'm enjoying this one.
Yeah, if I ever do,
they're gonna be like, it fucking sucks, Ryan. What are you talking about? I just love Frasier.
Well, last episode you established that you really liked Wolverine X-Men Origins, so we can't really trust you on most things.
Yeah, and I like you brought it up, and I completely detached that ending, fighting Ryan Reynolds on the nuclear silo was part of the movie. Like, I completely forgot that was the same movie. I just remembered like the beginning where him and Sabretooth are fighting in World War II and like taking care of each other. I'm like, God, that was such a cool montage. And you're like, Deadpool. I'm like, oh God, oh man, yeah. Why did you have to read it for me, Rob?
Because we spoil everything except the Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang Theory. Spoil it all. Okay, so Raj is watching Good Wife. Sheldon gets freaked out about the sock. And Leonard says that Penny would dig the experiment. And everybody kind of bashes him for this, but I'm giving myself a point for being like Leonard here, that I know I would think of a friend or an ex and want to invite them to something I think was cool. And people would be like, yeah, she broke up with you, ignore her, right? But I could see like me saying like, I think this is something she'd really like. I'd want her to come, or not just an ex, but a friend. And yeah, I don't know. I really connect with his thoughtful. I thought that was really thoughtful of him, and that he didn't get enough credit for it. So Sheldon says that he didn't know lunar ranging was Penny's thing, and he goes, "Well, I guess the reflector left on the moon qualifies as a shiny object." So he's it's something shining to catch her attention. And again, they start debating over the relationship and what went wrong with it. And Leonard finally decides, I'm just going to go ask her. And he heads downstairs. Meanwhile, Raj is told to get off the telescope. And he looks very seriously and says, good wife is crying. Something's wrong. I like the seriousness there.
I love that.
She's crying. Something's wrong. All right, then we have the intro. And, although I like that, I don't know if it was the best joke to lead into the intro on. So it was kind of like the heart of the episode was kind of a little lackluster, but funny nonetheless. We go to the hallway, and Leonard is knocking on Penny's door, and a guy is there with her.
It's Zach.
Zach. He comes in and says the experiment's not going to make any sense because there's no gravity. And he doesn't really elaborate on where there's no gravity, if there's no gravity on the moon. Technically, there's no gravity. Well, the moon is like technically in the Earth's atmosphere, right? Because it's falling around us. If it's in orbit, it's somewhere.
Technically, semantics, I'd say.
Semantics.
We all understand what he says, that there's no gravity. Technically, there is gravity because even though like an astronaut will jump, it'll still pull him down. So technically, there is somewhat gravity there.
But
it's
if
just a lot less.
Halfway between us and the moon, would there be gravity? Technically, the moon's in our gravitational pull, so even between us, there's still some gravity, but most likely you'd be floating in a spaceship, right? Am I wrong about that?
No, I think in between, I don't think there is, but as you get closer to the moon, it starts having a pull.
You would notice it quite a bit more on the moon, right? Because, that's why they can walk on the moon, and we're going to get to the gravitational experiment in the free fall experiment later, but that's not later. So it's Zach Johnson. Apparently he has a last name. He's played by Brian Thomas Smith. And he's also apparently going to be in like 10 more episodes, or if he hasn't been, I didn't recognize him, but he's going to be a reoccurring character. Which
I really like Zach.
I liked him in this episode.
I really like Zach.
I feel like they gave him a really hard time. And so I'm glad that he's going to come back. I didn't see what episodes. I didn't research that much, but he is going to come back, and I'm excited because I thought he was funny, and I thought he was really nice too.
Yeah, that's why I won't go into spoilers, but yeah.
When he's leaving, he asks if she wants to invite the guys to the party. And I'm like, that's really nice of him. Like, that's just pure sweet. There's nothing wrong with that. So anyways, he's been in other shows and films. I didn't really recognize anything, but he's been in other stuff, and he's going to be coming back. So,
yeah, I scrolled through his IMDb, and I literally recognized nothing. Like, I've not seen anything or even heard of anything that he's done.
Nothing really clicked a bell. Some of it looked interesting. I looked into some of the movies that looked kind of good, but like, it's just nothing I've heard of. Happens. But yeah, some stuff. So Zach wants to see the experiment, and she says they're going to be late to the party, and he says it doesn't matter. It's a surprise party. So, he's not necessarily based in our logic or reasoning, but I still think it's cool. Our reality, our gravity. But I think it's cool that he wants to see the experiment. They get up to the roof, and Zach is mentioning that he designs menus for the Cheesecake Factory, which is how he met Penny. He mentions
I will say, like, they make that into a joke, but if you really think about it, I think that he out-earns all of them by like tenfold.
He probably does, yeah. With his dad being the head of the company, there's no doubt in my mind that he probably
making menus for the Cheesecake Factory. That is a consistent contract, and
I'm guessing it's not just the Cheesecake Factory, right? It's some sort of a PR company,
printing company,
yeah,
or something like that.
He mentions that a lot of science goes into designing them, and this kind of pissed me off. But Leonard and Penny give each other a look like, yeah, whatever, kind of baffled, like, what the fuck's he talking about? But IQ point 2, science does go into the artistic design of Cheesecake Factory, maybe not Cheesecake Factory menus specifically, but graphic design does require science. Mostly psychology, some biology. And I looked at kind of two different things. My first thought about this was Steve Jobs. And the reason we have graphic interface units or unit interfaces, basically computer screens, is because of Steve Jobs and Wozniak, right? Wozniak was fucking around in his garage and found out that he could have a computer output to a screen. And Steve Jobs saw it and he's like, this is the wave of the future. Things are visual. The way we use technology should be visual. And he has a quote, and I found this on surtmeter.com, but it was actually a quote from an article called The Guts of a New Machine in a 2003 New York Times article that profiled Apple just as they were launching the iPod. And it was hitting big. And the quote says, most people make the mistake of thinking design is what it looks like. People think it's this veneer that the designers are handed this box and told, make it look good. That's not what we think design is. It's not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works. And so my thought, he's talking about the usability of a computer, but technically this is any publication, anything that we're looking at and interacting with, which would include a menu. And so I went to a medium.com article by the IT company CyberSpark Global. And in this, they had two parts that I kind of reference. Principles of graphic design. And the principles include typography, basically, and I would go ahead and say scientific choice of fonts and arrangement affect the readability and mood of a piece in the audiences of it. The color theory, how colors work and the psychological impact they have on the audiences. The layout and composition, elements of arrangement for appealing visuals and organization, making it user-friendly and how they interact and understand the information they're being given. The imagery, the selection and manipulation of images, illustration, and graphics to interact with the audiences. And the white space, basically scientifically, this is also considered art, but when it's something like a menu, I would say it's as much of a science as it is an art, but being able to guide users based on white space to focus in on what they're supposed to be looking at. And I mean, we get things like highlighting on menus. We get little things like having chef special. I've read that just highlighting an item on a menu makes it sell more. There can be absolutely no fucking reason to highlight the item on the menu, but if you highlight it, people focusing on it and more likely to order it. I'd say that's science. Then the impacts on actually concerning yourself with such publications and the seriousness behind, like, considering science behind these publications. We think of branding. Well-designed logos and consistent brand identity make brands recognizable and help brands succeed. So basically, if nobody can recognize your logo and you didn't put much thought into it, or if it was too confusing or complicated, people will forget it and your business will fail. Advertising, learning how to grab an audience's attention. User experience, UX design, basically allowing users the ability to navigate and interact with the materials you're giving them. So in this case, a menu, how it folds, if it folds in a way that they're not familiar with. I mean, we should all be familiar with the basic menu, but I've had some weird ones before, knowing the front from the back, knowing where to locate. I mean, if the desserts start the menu, people are going to be confused and probably irritated from the get-go. There's logic behind it and reasoning. Print media.
Have you actually come across the menu where the desserts were in the front?
I've seen desserts underneath appetizers before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like the first page was appetizers,
choice.
desserts, and drinks. And for me, like, it didn't make sense. For somebody, I guess it did, but you know, I'm just pushing that. It's
because it's YOLO. Get a dessert.
Desserts anyway.
Have a few shots. Have a dessert. Have an app.
What does he call it? The appy teaser or some teaser? That's what it is. Shots and appy teaser.
He invented that.
Good for him. Print media engaging and informing users. Newspapers are science, knowing how to give the people information, how to sum up the information in a useful, thoughtful way that's supposed to be unbiased. It's not something that people just write down media and publish it, like Penny and Leonard are kind of saying it is. And then right now, the biggest one, social media, relying on user engagement. And I would say further this, that social media has developed graphic design in a way that plays on our dopamine reactors and in a way that like sucks us in, kind of like gambling, and we are like almost addicted to trying to get the next dopamine fix or drug fix based on like, oh, new information, gossip, or whatever. So yeah, that's, you know, really all I have on this, but I think it was more than enough for me to feel like there was no reason for them to give that snide look at each other, that menus seem pretty basic for them to be successful, for them to be usable, and to actually make money on designing them. A lot of thought does go into that shit. And rightfully so. I mean,
that's why large businesses have entire departments dedicated to graphic design. It's part of the marketing team.
They think about the colors. They usually have like test groups and say, what do you think of this logo? Because you don't spend $5 million on a logo and then send it out just to fail. You pay to make sure it's going to work, right? So yeah, I don't know. That kind of frustrated me that they're like, whatever. I thought Zach was a nice guy, and they're already shitting on him.
Yeah, they're kind of being jerks to him.
Yeah. So they get to the roof. Anything more on that? Sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say, like, I'm so glad that she did an IQ point on this. I didn't even think about that, but I kind of did clock that, where it's like, no, like, there actually is a lot more to, like, the design part of it and everything. And like you said, they're kind of just being jerks to him.
Yeah.
And I remember it wasn't even that long ago, I had to make, like, this flyer for work. And I was working on it, and I couldn't pinpoint it. I couldn't identify the science of it, but I was like just staring at my work, and I was like, why does it look so terrible? My flyer is horrible. So I had to send it to somebody on the marketing team. I was like, please help me. And they just, within a day, they sent it back, and it was like a whole new world. I was like, oh my God. It's like beautiful now.
You drew it in crowns and magic markers. What were you thinking? It looks like a 2-year-old did it. I thought it was pretty.
It was pretty. I was going to put it in my fridge.
My mommy gave it a star. They're back on the roof, and Howard is getting rid of the sock, which made me laugh again because Sheldon's really bothered by that sock. And Sheldon tells Raj to keep a lookout for that other sock. And Zach comes up and says lasers are bitchin'. And Sheldon, again, shoots him down, saying, of course, that's exactly what Albert Einstein was thinking of when he brainstormed laser devices. He wanted them to be bitchin'. Leonard explains the experiment, explains that in 1969, astronauts on Apollo 11 put the reflectors on the moon that they'll be shooting at, and that it's going to be bouncing back. And Zach asks how they can be sure they won't blow up the moon, which I think is funny that that's the exact same question that came up from logical people on the website I was looking at. But yeah, they belittle him for that. And he says it in a way that's like way extravagant, I guess. But it also made me think of, do you ever see that old cartoon, The Tick?
That was so long. I don't remember. I have, but it was so long ago that I don't really remember it.
It's like this giant guy dresses up in a blue costume that's like a giant tick. And one of his enemies, I don't remember a whole lot, but I remember he has a enemy named, I believe it was Chairface Chippendale. And Chairface Chippendale actually had a chair for his head. And for his birthday, he bought a huge laser, and he was going to spell his name on the moon. And the tick stops him, but like he gets the C and the H, and then it stops. And for the rest of the cartoon series, if you ever see the moon in the background, it has like a C and H on it. So there's some continuity. But
That's great.
Lasers, I mean, they can be powerful, I guess, but this one's not, so they're not going to blow up the moon. Sheldon says this is the man for Penny. How could somebody possibly think they could blow up the moon? Leonard says not to worry, they've set their laser to stun, which Zach says good idea. And Leonard mentions that to the naked eye, it's not going to be something they can even see. And I get a point here for being like Zach because he starts giggling over him saying naked. And that is something that I would point out too. Naked.
Hey, Ryan.
Yeah.
Naked.
Naked. You said naked. You're saying naked. I'm still laughing at it.
I'm not laughing at naked, I'm laughing at you.
Oh.
Maybe I'll laugh later.
you get off and you just start laughing like I held it all in. They hand out the glasses and Zach says, oh, it's going to be in 3D. Okay, that was kind of silly, but it's kind of funny. They fire the laser, which returns in 2.5 seconds, proves that man-made objects are on the moon, and that a species was able to get to the moon and lay those just years after inventing the airplane. And Zach asks what species did this. Sheldon says Penny can actually do better than Zach, so he's lowering.
I do like that he gives her a little bit of credit.
Yeah, it gives her a little bit.
He doesn't think that low of her. He puts her a little bit.
It's a little bit, not super high, but it's higher than that. Okay, she can do better. They start leaving for the party, and this is where Zach is nice and says, should we invite them to the party? I just give credit to that. I think that's very kind and sincere. Just a nice guy. And then Sheldon says Zach must be very skilled at coitus. So maybe he is. So they are back in the apartment, and Raj mentions that it's probably about time that Leonard gets back on the horse. I do love that line. They all look at him, and Howard goes, "It's get back on the horse." Raj goes, "That's gross."
Disgusting, dude.
Disgusting. Love that line. But Howard does recommend a new dating site. Sheldon comes in and says, I can't bring down the nitrogen tank. Basically, it's too heavy and he just doesn't want to. So Leonard goes up to get it, and Raj and Howard decide to sign Sheldon up for the dating website, which is a great twist in how things are going to go, I guess, probably for the series. But Raj says it's going to be like Frankenstein's monster when they found the monster a wife. Howard says he didn't find a wife. They built him one out of dead body parts. Raj says, well, that's plan B. IQ point 3 here. I don't know what fucking story they're reading, but this is not Frankenstein in any way, shape, or form. Well, maybe some shape for the movie. But okay, so I know something that's not for my head. Going to be a quick IQ point, but one nonetheless that they don't know their literature. This is from Frankenstein.fandom.com. In the book, the original novel, the doctor is named Victor Frankenstein. And technically, the monster says, I will let you and your friends and family live if you make me a partner. I cannot be alone. I don't want to be alone. I am sad. I'm depressed. Life is miserable. You created me. You are my father. And instead of helping me, you've shat on me and refused to be my dad. All I'm asking is for you to make me a partner so I'm not alone in this dreary, depressing world. And Dr. Victor Frankenstein says, fuck you, I'm not helping you. You can go fuck yourself. I'm kind of
that too?
pretty much,
Wow, is that what the classics sound like?
I'm
Wuthering Heights too?
I know exactly what Mary Shelley was getting at. Victor Frankenstein starts to do it and says, you know what? No, I'm not going to. You're evil. I don't like you. You're a terrible thing that I created, and you're an abomination on the world. I don't know why I did this, except I have a horrible god complex. Victor Frankenstein was a douchebag. And he does this knowing that the monster is going to kill everybody he loves, and slowly says, kill him. I don't care. I'm just going to blame you, and I'm not going to help you out one bit. And so the monster lives up to his word. He kills everybody Dr. Victor Frankenstein loves. The wife never gets made or assembled in the book. Doesn't happen. And so we get to the movies, and apparently in the 1935 film Bride of Frankenstein, Dr. Septimus Pretorius blackmails Henry Frankenstein. Apparently, Victor's name was thought to be too aggressive for American audiences, so he was renamed Henry Frankenstein. But he gets blackmailed into creating a mate for the monster, the Bride of Frankenstein. Apparently, the Bride of Frankenstein is created, and she looks beautiful. She's the image that we know and love, with the hair and the shriek down the center of the white spot, whatever. But she's basically feral, screams and yells at everybody, and completely rejects the monster. There is no love or compassion there. It's not like an actual bride. And the monster, knowing that she hates him and that he is in a world that everybody hates him, throws a switch and basically kills Septimus, the bride, and himself. But he allows Henry Frankenstein to escape. So apparently this is retconned in Son of Frankenstein. I didn't look into that too much. What I do know is that in Bride of Frankenstein, the bride is assembled for the monster, but technically she doesn't like him. She's made for him and absolutely hates him. And immediately they're all killed off. So in the book, in the movie, it doesn't work out. The perfect mate isn't made for the creature like that. It all ends in horrible tragedy. So maybe something happens in Son of Frankenstein, but at that point, I feel like they're just making fan fiction. It doesn't, whatever. I don't feel like they know their literature very well, that technically making a wife would not work, that hopefully this computer program is the best they have, and they're playing.
They should have gone with weird science.
Exactly. That did work out. That was a good movie. People hate that movie so much, like, I don't know. Everybody I talked to
it just didn't age well.
It didn't age well. But
like if you saw it when we were kids, of course it's awesome. But then if you actually showed if you showed someone who's never seen it today's age, they'll be like, this is problematic.
There are problems. This is horribly offensive. It's Robert Downey Jr., right? Before he even became Iron Man. He's the high school bully.
It's been such a long time.
Watch it, you'll be surprised. You're like, wow, he has a baby face. He's so young in it.
Oh my god. Side note, what I just saw, so I just started rewatching, I always have to have a show in the background. I just restarted watching How I Met Your Mother for the 20th time. I didn't realize that John Bernthal, the Punisher, was in an episode of How I Met Your Mother in season 1.
Who was he?
It was episode 2 when they were doing all the parties to get Robin to come to the apartment and everything like that. He was Carlos.
No shit.
I was like, it never dawned on me until I watched it again just yesterday or the day before. I was like, holy fuck, that's Punisher.
I know who that is.
Playing a character completely different from anything else.
I love finding little bit roles like that. Where the fuck did he come from? He's out there punishing people. That's what he's doing.
Punishing Ted.
Okay, so their reference did not work that well for me. And I guess it's stereotypes or assumptions, it made sense, but from my knowledge of Frankenstein, and I also got to go on my rant about how Victor's a douchebag. I hate Victor Frankenstein. So anyways,
doesn't sound very nice.
He's not a very nice father figure. Which like, if you read the book, like, it's almost hysterical that he creates the monster. The monster, like, wakes up, and immediately he's like, I've made a mistake and regret all my actions, and runs away. And the monster's sitting there like, somebody gonna help me out? Like, do I walk around? And sits around for a while and then gets up and walks away. Like, it's such a weird scene. Like, it's not violent. It's just the Dr. Frankenstein's like, run! It's so weird. Okay, so it's late at night. There's knocking at the apartment. Leonard answers the door to a drunk Penny who curses him out for ruining stupid guys for her. He thought, they mentioned that Zach thought he was going to blow up the moon. And apparently he spent the night bragging about creating the word appetizers, which I kind of like. Again, they are hating on Zach way too much. He's not that bad of a guy.
He's great at marketing. Yeah, it's just a different kind of science. It's social science.
He invited them to the party. How are you going to, like, that is just, that was kindness out of the goodness of his heart. He's a good person. Penny grabs him and takes him to the bedroom and says they're going to have sex. And I do like that Sheldon comes out and she says, put on your noise-canceling headphones. It's going to get loud. He goes, oh, no.
I wasn't sure if this, since they're not officially together, is this a violation of the roommate agreement?
Ooh. I would imagine so. I'm going to say yes, although at that point I think Sheldon doesn't want to mess with Penny, so he's letting it slide.
I know. I was thinking about that too. It's like how they have like this brother-sister relationship. He's like, ugh, I'm just not going to mess with it.
Yeah. Just like with his actual sister, where he's like, okay, she'll beat me up, type thing. So the next morning, Sheldon is mad and he's going to be having the worst day ever. But it's one point not being like him because he is drinking orange juice with low pulp. And he says, what? In what world is this low pulp? I love pulp. I love high pulp. And I get pissed off when I have no pulp. So
I'm the opposite. I like no pulp.
Most people don't like pulp, but I want to feel like I'm eating my breakfast and my juice. Like, it's a smoothie that I don't have to make.
That's fair. A little more fiber.
Most people don't like pulp. Finding pulp at the store, like, there's usually 4 for every one, 4 no pulps for every pulp. There's like no pulp calcium, no pulp home style, no pulp, I don't know, aphrodisiacs or something. And then there's
I need my orange juice to help wash things down. I don't need the little pieces of shit to get caught in my throat.
That's what I like. It makes me feel alive. I like pulp. Jay. But it makes Sheldon have the worst day ever.
His English muffin, his butter. What a terrible day.
Terrible. Which I was kind of surprised that he's not making toast with what were they? I almost said Klingon, but
the Cylon toast.
The Cylon, there we go. Yeah, he wasn't making Cylon.
Well, he switched up to English muffin. Maybe it's English muffin day.
But he could use the same toaster, right?
I guess technically you're right. Yeah.
What happened to that? Maybe he got fed up with it, or it probably broke. I don't know. Too many Cylons.
Too many Cylons taking over the world.
So Penny sneaks out and he hears her, and like he has eyes in the back of his head, which apparently he's learned to do to avoid getting beat up. Which apparently he also got beat up because he called himself in the third person. One develops good hearing when one gets beat up. He mentions that his headphones were ineffective and he's never heard yeehaw used in that context. And she says, oh God. And he says, oh, I have heard oh God on multiple occasions. She leaves. He complains about the toast. Leonard comes out and he's kind of wondering where she went, why she didn't say goodbye. Sheldon says she probably went home to shower and vomit. Maybe not in that order or at the same time. And Leonard's asking, why didn't she say goodbye? Sheldon looks at him and is like, why are you asking me to decipher human behavior? Leonard's like, yeah, that's a good point. So it ends there, but they're kind of, well, Sheldon doesn't really give a shit, but Leonard is kind of confused why she slept with him and then ditched him very, very quickly. Later on in the hall, Leonard is trying to talk to Penny, and she's trying to get out of the way to work very quickly. Apparently, she just got done throwing up in her closet, so last night must have been pretty fun. But it's clear she's trying to blow him off, that she's embarrassed, and he's trying to like say, let's go on a date or something, and she says last night was a mistake. He mentions that it was a fortunate mistake, like the invention of penicillin. And did you do an IQ point on penicillin? I didn't, because I felt like
I did.
you did. Go for it, because I'm like, I don't know if I have anything to add to this.
We really complete each other, don't we?
Exactly. Just like us in Costco.
Costco, you complete me.
Complete me,
I want to be inside you. Oh, wait. We were talking about that offline. No one's going to know what that means.
Well, if any of you are wondering, we love Costco, and we were talking about how great it is.
But enough about Costco. We're going to talk about penicillin.
Penicillin.
So I found this on pbs.org. And credit for discovery is given to Alexander Fleming in 1928. He was known to be a somewhat messy or careless lab technician. Fleming didn't clean his lab before a 2-week vacation. Holy shit. A scientist not cleaning his lab for 2 weeks? Gross. But when he returned, he noticed a mold had developed on an accidentally contaminated Staphylococcus. I hope I said that right. Staphylococcus culture plate.
Coccus.
Lots of caca on that.
That's a lot of caca.
But upon examination of the mold, he noticed that the culture prevented the growth of the Staphylococcus. No. That's not it. Staphylococcus. Staff. I'll leave it at that. Well, anyways, this mold that contaminated it was Penicillium. After further research, he was able to replicate the accident and confirm the previous findings that something about Penicillium not only inhibited the growth of bacteria, but it might be harnessed to combat infectious diseases. He had discovered the world's first antibiotic. However, his research came to a halt as Fleming did not have the resources nor the chemistry background to take the next steps of isolating the active ingredient of the Penicillium mold, purifying it, and figuring out which germs it was effective against, and how to use it. So then, it was passed along to Howard Florey and Ernest Chain, researchers at Oxford University, who were able to use the big brain magic to turn this into penicillin. They were able to produce a series of crude penicillium mold culture fluid extracts. As always, with science, they started experimenting with mice.
I bet they did science of graphic design and menus.
With a little sprinkling a little mold on top of it.
Yeah. What type of mold would you like with that?
Appetizer.
It's appetizer.
Well, eventually their testing made it to humans. Oxford Police Constable Albert Alexander would be the first case. Alexander nicked his face working in his rose garden. The scratch infected with streptococci and staphylococci spread to his eyes and scalp. He received 5 days of injections and he began to recover. However, they didn't have enough of the treatment and Alexander ultimately died.
Oh shit! That's
it was in the 1920s and penicillin was there, but they just couldn't produce enough of it.
So what I think this means is that we shouldn't guard it anymore.
Well, now we can because we have antibiotics.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. But gardening in the 20s was a dangerous game. They knew they were onto something, so they continued to move forward with mass production. This is where they partnered with biochemist Dr. Norman Heatley to help find ways of mass production. They went high and low to grow vats of the penicillin mold, but they just couldn't produce enough. They were aware that the fungus Penicillium notatum would never yield enough penicillin to treat people reliably. Florey and Heatley had to search for a more productive species. So, and I'm not sure if what happened next happened by accident or if it was on purpose, but lab assistant Mary Hunt picked out a cantaloupe from the market that was covered with what was described as a pretty golden mold. And serendipitously, the mold turned out to be fungus Penicillium chrysogeum. And it yielded 200 times the amount of penicillin as the species that Fleming had described. Yet even that species required enhancing with mutation-causing X-rays infiltration, ultimately producing 1,000 times as much penicillin as the first batches from Penicillium notatum. So they were finally able to mass produce it. So this story is really interesting of how people get credit. So Fleming, if you really think about the original discoverer who discovered it by accident, really didn't do anything after discovering it. Sure, he redid his experiment to actually validate his results, but after that, he couldn't really do anything.
He didn't have the money or manpower to make it happen.
Yeah. So he got all the credit, and then Florey and the Oxford group were virtually ignored. But there is a happy ending. It was partially corrected in 1945 when Fleming, Florey, and Chain, but not Heatley, were awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine. But then, in 1990, Oxford made up for the Nobel Committee's oversight by awarding Heatley the first honorary doctorate of medicine in its 800-year history. But we also need to remember that these discoveries could never have been unfolded without an army of laboratory workers.
I was going to say rats.
Mice.
Mice.
It was mice.
And I want to point out too that if you've been listening, we did an IQ point a couple episodes ago. That it was weird because Sheldon mentions that he wants to get some antibiotics as a precursory measure, and that we talked about how antibiotics are becoming less and less effective. No matter like you said, like they actually did X-rays to mutate them and make them more effective. And still, what we have now is becoming less and less effective because we use so much of them as a species that bacteria is becoming like super strong against them, and it's just a matter of time before our antibiotics don't work and gardening could kill us again. Although I've heard it's terrifying, right?
As I told you that I'm getting into gardening.
Pick another hobby, Rob. You need to stay alive.
I guess I'll watch football.
I'll get into football. Oh. I can spend more time at Costco. You ever seen that movie, King of California? Michael Douglas?
That sounds familiar. Can you remind me a little bit more?
He somehow, I forget all the specifics, but he talks his daughter into breaking into a Costco and forming like a digging committee, and so that they can dig because he believes that there's gold underneath the Costco.
Okay, I did not see that then.
It's worth watching. I need to watch it again. The premise is so funny. There's gold underneath the Costco. We got to break in and dig. Is this
an older movie or is this a more recent one?
Maybe like a decade ago, 10 years.
Okay.
Okay, so
Well, that's
penicillin.
what I had on penicillin.
For now, it's helping us, and it's wonderful, and we thank you for that, Fleming et al. And everybody who isn't
And all
responsible.
lab workers. Yeah, it's not just the lead of the project. Credit needs to go to all like the little grunt workers.
And let's not forget the grocery store who kept the moldy cantaloupe on the shelf.
Yeah, I couldn't find any more information on that. I was like, was that on purpose, or did she just buy like a really shitty cantaloupe? And what made them decide to look at it underneath the microscope?
That's a really shiny cantaloupe. Mind if I look at it? Yeah, go for it.
I got to see this.
You just saved so many lives. Can I eat the cantaloupe?
But I can eat this, right?
I can still eat this. Okay, so Penny wants to forget the night. Leonard says it's imprinted on him, especially the whole rodeo thing, the yeehaws, I guess. And this kind of bothers me. And it's the start of what bothers me is that we're not seeing much reflection at all from Penny's side. And it actually like seems cruel for her to say that was a mistake. That she came in and used him. And like, I think it's stereotypical to say like, well, every guy kind of wants that because, I mean, it's the whole reason Offspring wrote the song Self-Esteem, right? That you have low self-esteem, a girl comes over, wants to sleep with you, and you sleep with her. It's not a good thing, but guys often have a hard time of saying no like that because what's the song go? She's ready to go or something. Whatever. So I think it's kind of cruel of her just like saying, and then they kind of chalk it up to double standards. Oh, it's just double standards. But I think she comes off as kind of cruel here. And I think it's because we don't see much from her side of how she's reflecting or reacting to it. If she just sees a mistake or if she actually does have emotions. I don't know. I wish there was a little bit more there. And it comes up a little bit later as well. So she leaves, Leonard's standing there, and Miss Gunderson comes out, played by Laurie Johnson, who has been in many sitcoms, including 6 episodes of Mom. I don't really remember her in Mom. I don't remember much of Mom. I need to watch it again, but she's been in quite a bit as well. So, and she says good morning, or maybe yeehaw. So apparently Sheldon's not the only one who was hearing yeehaw the night before, the whole rodeo thing. Go forward, the apartment. Howard and Raj have set up a profile for Sheldon, and they have even found a match, a human woman. Meanwhile, Leonard is moping on the couch. They make jokes about breasts. Doesn't necessarily mean the person's a woman. And like you said, I felt like that was kind of a cheap shot for a joke. It just felt a little forced. Howard says, I can show you pics of my uncle in a bathing suit. It wasn't really hitting me. It was not terrible, but Leonard complains about girls walking out on guys. Meanwhile, Raj and Howard send an email as Sheldon. That's part of it. In my notes, I put Raj and Sheldon, but Raj and Howard send an email for Sheldon as if they were Sheldon. Leonard has taken off saying, if girls can play this game, guys can play it too, and ends up at Leslie's apartment. I always love seeing Leslie. She's only in it for a few seconds, but she's such an amazing character. It's been 18 months, and he shows up literally on her doorstep. And I'm kind of confused that they haven't seen each other at school. Like, they still work at the same school, right?
They do, but they're kind of in different departments. Leslie seems like she's more in Sheldon's department, whereas Leonard is more of the experimental physicist. So he's kind of, they're there, but they're not there.
But they would see each other in the cafeteria at lunch, right?
I mean, it's a big campus.
That's fair. I've never worked at a school where like there was a cafeteria where teachers went and ate. Like usually they just take off or like.
Well, I guess they're not I guess for you're a teacher, but like for them, they're technically just employees. There.
I don't know if I've ever worked a job that had a cafeteria, so I don't know how this is all new to me.
Wait, Does your school not have a cafeteria?
Not right now. COVID killed it. So pre-COVID, it did have a cafeteria, but it was really more for students to eat. You didn't really see teachers there. Sometimes teachers would get stuff and take it back to their offices.
Yeah, because why would you want to eat with the students? I would.
Yeah.
I'd be like, bye.
I think when I first started working there, I did just because I felt like I didn't know anybody. And so I felt like either it was like an empty office. And technically I was an adjunct, so it was like a big office that was super empty with like 20 computers. And like at the right time of day, they would be full. But like when I was there and like eating dinner or something, like nobody was there, and like it kind of creeped me out. So, but then I got kind of used to it, and I just like whatever, I started eating in there. But yeah, I'm guessing like hospitals have cafeterias where like that's something in Scrubs, right? They always eat down in the cafeteria, but I've never had a job like everybody's just. It's more like for me, it's always been like the office where people have a refrigerator in the break room and brown bag and microwave.
Yeah, I've worked in restaurants, and like some of the jobs I had was the cafeteria for the offices. Like
So
I
they
used to cook for
exist.
Microsoft. Yeah, yeah, I used to work for Microsoft at the Redmond campus.
Yeah.
Our cafeteria actually serviced 3 buildings. The company that I work with now, I actually that office has a cafeteria. Yeah, it's kind of a thing.
I'm curious, if you're listening, do you have a cafeteria, or are you more used to like the brown bagging thing?
Or do you brown bag it to the cafeteria?
To the cafeteria. This is all interesting. Man. And I think too, as a teacher, I guess most of the places I've worked at were too small to have a cafeteria. But like you said, if there's 3 campuses or 3 buildings, that warrants enough people to have something going on. With the hospital, you have people there and patients that you have to feed, so it's not just a small group of people.
Yeah.
Something about my high school is I remember we had this cook, the chef, who did amazing things with like so little that I'm sure like I don't know, like I told you, like that's how I learned about wedding soup. Is like every Wednesday he made wedding soup. Wow, it's fantastic. His mashed potatoes and gravy were, maybe not the best I've ever had, but for much better than any other school or regular cafeteria I've been at. Better than any like microwavable Stofers I've ever had or anything like that. On Fridays during Lent, we weren't allowed to eat meat. So he was like stuck like making either fish or pierogies. Pierogies, oh fuck, I love pierogies. And he did a fantastic job. So, I think I was really lucky with that cafeteria experience, and I'm like kind of.
Is this when you're in Pennsylvania? You mentioned
in
wedding soup
Pennsylvania.
and pierogies. Yeah, it's like it's such a big thing. Like you can't really find wedding soup back on the West Coast.
Trader Joe's has it in jars, and like that's the only place I don't know why, but
yeah, it's like I didn't know what wedding soup was until I came to Pennsylvania, and I fucking love it.
Right.
It's like one of my favorite soups. Oh my god.
So where has this been my whole life?
Yeah. Not in Seattle.
Not in Seattle. But yeah, I could see it because I think that when my cafeteria was open, like they had like 2 soups a day, and then they had like hamburgers, chicken strips, and like maybe like a turkey sub or something, like pretty basic stuff. But you have to cater to so many people that it's hard to do anything special or fancy. But
I will give a shout out right now to University of Washington's cafeterias. Each like they had multiple ones, but the one, at least when I went there, the one underneath McMahon, that their cafeteria was so good. Oh my god, they had like a grill, they had like a build your own sandwich shop, they had the Pagliacci's pizza and everything. I was like, oh my god, Like I used to get like the chicken sandwich with honey mustard all the time. It was so good.
I was
That
thinking
place was so like for a
Penn
college
State.
cafeteria, that was great.
The Penn State cafeterias, and they had multiple because each like there'd be like 4 built dormitories like circled around a cafeteria, and then they had like several dormitory areas, and each dormitory area had their own cafeteria, and the meals were great. I remember them being really expensive though. I could be making this up, but for some reason in my head I'm thinking like $20 a meal. And
what the fuck?
Yeah, like it was really pricey. I think if you did the meal plan, it was cheaper, but it was still like
they shade gold on every meal.
Sometimes, yeah,
a little drizzle of truffle on this everything. Like what?
It was always really good, and I remember them introducing me to edamame. It was all you could eat buffet. That was a big thing. It was always all you can eat.
Okay,
and
that makes okay. I get it now.
The desserts were always really good, but like one key thing is apparently like, I think it's an old wives' tale, but who knows? The people, Ben and Jerry from Ben and Jerry's Ice Cream took courses at Penn State and used that information to make their ice cream business. And Penn State has a creamery, where they make like cheese and stuff, but they make ice cream, and they make some special ice creams. None of them are like over the top the best, but they were always fun and delicious. I remember one called, I believe it was alumni swirl. It was like blackberry swirls with like chocolate chips. They had a boysenberry chip or something. Such a weird flavor. They had tea berry ice cream. Like who the hell experiments with tea berry? Is basically Pepto-Bismol ice cream, which I didn't like, but I appreciate that somebody was experimenting.
You got to rebrand that to bubblegum.
Yeah, yeah, tea berry. Man, that was so yeah. I remember it being expensive, but those cafeterias, like every now and then, like I'd have date nights where we would go to the cafeteria and get food because it's like what else? We have pizza or Chinese food. What should we get? Let's go to the cafeteria.
Yeah.
Even when I was living off campus, I made it happen. Okay, so cafeterias, maybe a bust, maybe not. I appreciate the option of having one. Hopefully mine gets opened back up. I think there are good things to be said about them. Maybe mine needs ice cream. Although the cool thing about my school is that it has a culinary department, and on certain days, like during the year, like the students make fancy meals, and like you can go into the restaurant area and it's like a sit down meal, and you order, and it's like if the students know what they're doing, it's like a professional restaurant. Sometimes you wait an hour and like your food doesn't come out, but they comp you, and they're always very nice and polite. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I love it. I love the option. Like if you're going there and you're going to get frustrated with something like that, like don't go there. But if you go there and
they're students, and just be respectful, and like honestly, it's good that the students are experiencing something like this, just because like. You gotta crash and burn. It's like a rite of passage.
I've never had the food come out bad. It's always been fantastic. If that says anything, it's always been like top tier quality food. So the teachers are doing excellent, and they're learning, and I love it. Okay, so you turned this into a food podcast, Rob. Are you happy?
Always happy to talk about food. I hope they bring it back. Yeah, I hope.
Yeah. I'm sure they will. Enrollment's going up, COVID's going down, and everybody's Actually, COVID's kind of spiking again, isn't it? But
it is spiking. I need to make a decision if I want to get another shot for it.
That's what a lot of people are saying. They experience so many issues with the shots. Like, is it worth it just to get it again or risk it? The
last time I got a shot last year, I was like in bed for like a day. It was rough. Like I got the worst chills. Like I could not. Like, I soaked in the bathtub and I just could not warm up. It was horrible. So that's why, like, do I even want to do it? I'll get a flu shot like always, but like, do I even want to get a COVID shot?
That's
Do you think you'll get one?
I probably will, just because whatever. I like injecting my body with things I don't understand. It's fun. I like to be safe, and it's one day, and I always make a thing of it. Like, okay, tonight I'm gonna be sick and almost dead. I will give extra blankets. I have like hot cocoa and broth, and like all set up, and I pamper myself when I'm ready. But the chills I get from the shot, the vaccine, are worse than when I actually have COVID. COVID actually lasts longer, but those chills and that cold, like, man, I can't stop shivering with the vaccine each time I get it.
Yeah, the one time I got COVID, I was a little lethargic for like 6 hours, and then I got over it.
This like, last time, I told you I got it a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
I had a headache. It's like one of the worst headaches I've ever had. I couldn't sleep. I woke up at like 3 or 4 in the morning and just sat there and like didn't want to move. I didn't even want to get Motrin. Like I hurt that bad. My body hurt. My head hurt. And it was just like 4 or 5 hours until Kelsey got up and like, can you get me Motrin? It was like terrible. But no chills or anything. Very few coughs. It's just body aches. I've never had body aches like that before. It's a weird disease.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm saying. Go to the store. We get cantaloupes. We let these cantaloupes get nice, golden, and juicy.
I look at cantaloupe it's almost like an avocado, where it's like it has such a small window of perfect ripeness, and then either you get it and it's not ripe enough and it's just not juicy, it's like rock hard, or it's like or you get it and it's like mush. Like that window is just so short for it's a good cantaloupe.
I'm gonna have this for breakfast, and for breakfast it's like liquefying. Like, oh no, it's been 8 hours.
I do like cantaloupe though. Like when it's perfect, it's perfect.
Yeah, my dad used to like go all out for. Like, more so than my mom when I was growing up. In fact, I grew up in a household where my dad knew how to cook a lot more than my mom did. But, like, he would go out and he still does, like, for Sunday breakfast, making French toast, pancakes, or, like, he would do, like, melon salads, like honeydew and cantaloupe and watermelon. And I don't know how he picked them, but he always picked them well, and they were always really good. And, like, I picked them, like you say, it's, like, rock hard and like crunchy, or it's like already the bottom's already liquid and jelly.
Yeah,
it's tough. So I've given up on cantaloupes.
That's why I just avoid it. In this area, I stick with apples and bananas.
I'm terrible.
I just got mangoes, even though I know that mangoes aren't in season. But it was on sale, so I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. And it was like the fucking worst. It sucked. It was like perfectly right. It had like the perfect texture, and it was juicy, but the juices tasted like nothing. It was like, it's like, damn it.
I'm eating nothingness. It's like never-ending story, right? Man, it's been so long since I've seen that, but I swear that there's like a rock creature who eats rocks, and he like bites one. He's like, "There's nothing in it."
God, I remember watching that scene. I was like, "Man, that looks really good." It's like it sounds really good too. It's like crunchy and
I see those rock juices. It looks tasty. Yeah, I think with apples and pears, it's tough for me because I prefer them being underripe. I like them being really kind of hard, rock hard, and like really crisp and crunchy. Instead of like kind of soft and juicy. And so it's like trying to get them at that stage. And then everybody's like, "Why are you eating that? Like it's not ready yet." I'm like, "It's so good."
I love pears. I know. I feel like pears are like the most underrated fruit. People just don't really talk about pears, but like when it's spot on, it is like
There.
like it's coming up. Winter is coming, so pear season is coming, and when you get the right, even just like a basic Bartlett pear, if you get that in like the heart of like December, January, when it's like in season, oh my god, it'll like just burst with flavor, like juices just for days.
I'm still going from last year. Man, woo! More there. Ryan, you ate pesticide.
But it's tasty. So sweet.
So juicy. No, you're foaming at the mouth and dying.
That's a mold, and it's not penicillium.
Oh. Okay, let's get back to the show. Where are we? Leslie's apartment. It's been 18 months. They may or may not have seen each other at school, but they haven't talked really. He proposes that they have sex just for fun. And her immediate response is, what happened? Blondie dumped you? She got it right on the hit the nail on the head. And she says she's going to think about it and slams the door on him. It takes him a second, but he realizes she's not coming back. So, nope. Apparently, the women in this show get to make the choices about having sex for fun. Howard and Raj realize that the woman, they're back at the apartment, the woman actually on the dating program wants to meet Sheldon. And they try to talk Sheldon into a date. And then there's a joke, and like you said, it's kind of a joke that falls a little flat about it's not 4:30 is not afternoon, it's pre-evening. It's a new time period, and he's trying to make it work pre-evening, and he's at 4:30.
Stuff like that made me feel like more than half of this episode was almost filler.
Yeah,
for like the main storyline.
It was. I don't know. It felt a little forced.
Yeah, they spent way too much time talking about pre-evening.
Yeah, like a slight backhand joke on it could work, but they spent like a good it seemed like 20 to 30 seconds, which for a 20-minute episode. Anyways, they claim the woman has been scientifically picked to be his perfect mate, and he claims that algorithms are complete hook'em. And Raj says that that's the exact wording that they used, that Howard wanted to say something else, and Raj said, no, this is Sheldon's word, and he will say hook 'em. And Raj mentions that even Spock dated every 7 years. This is Ponfar, when his blood boiled with lust. So apparently Sheldon's saying it's different. Raj is saying it's the same. And Howard says you should go out and have some coffee or hot chocolate. Sheldon mentions he only drinks hot chocolate in months that start with, or have R in their names, because life is, what is life without some whimsy? And I kind of laughed at that, but at the same time, it seemed kind of random. I don't know.
A little too random.
A little too random. And Howard bows out and says, I'm out. Raj then comes in with the blackmail, saying that he's hidden the sock from the roof. Unless he goes on the date, the sock will remain there. That joke made me laugh a lot. And Sheldon says, you're bluffing. And Raj asks if he's willing to risk it.
Yeah.
So now back at the hallway, Leonard is coming up the stairs. He's drunk, and he throws a bottle down the elevator shaft. He waits, listens. It shatters, and he says 30 feet. Final IQ point. I think he's wrong. And I could have done the math wrong on this, but did you look into this at all?
No, I kind of just assumed it was right because distance equals rate times time. And I'm assuming he's counting that all objects fall at the same pace or at the same rate.
That's part of the problem, is that they do in a vacuum. We do not live in a vacuum. With wind resistance, air resistance, yeah. If he had thrown a candy bar wrapper down, it would have fallen a lot more slowly. Glass bottle, I don't think wind resistance would have done that much. But still counting, So for my information, let's go ahead and assume that there is not much outside resistance, such as air resistance, wind resistance, so on and so on. A free-falling object falls at an acceleration of 9.8 meters per second. That's the Earth's gravity. Okay, flip-flop that. 32.17405 feet per second. Every second, it falls that much faster. And it stops falling that much faster when the air resistance blocks it, my understanding. Basically, when it hits, the speed of sound, and it can't fall any faster. So it's not indefinite, but this is only falling for a couple seconds, so we don't even need to hassle with that. We can figure out that if a item is dropped from complete rest, we know that the velocity equals gravity times time. Basically, this notion that things fall at 32.17405 feet per second times how many seconds it goes, and that's how we know how quickly it's going. That's the other thing I found, that if this was an air resistance thing, terminal velocity would be about 53 meters per second or 118 miles per hour. So we're not even close to that. We don't have to worry about that. But if you're skydiving, that's something that they said you want to pay attention to. To calculate distance, on the other hand, the formula that I understood was S equals 1/2 times gravity times time squared. And this is if the initial velocity is 0, so if it's falling from rest. And basically half the square of gravity times the time of fall. And yeah, what was it? If it was 30 feet, it would have taken, from my calculations, and actually I used the website to do the calculations for me, for 30 feet, it would have taken 1.3656 seconds to fall and hit the ground. I watched it and timed it from having 2 minutes and 41 seconds left in the episode to somewhere between 2 minutes and 39, 2 minutes and 38 seconds left in the episode. Basically, it was about 2.5 seconds. It would have been like 100 feet, according to my calculations. And I'm curious if anybody times it differently. That, first of all, I was going 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and then I actually watched the time log on the bottom of the screen. Nothing super fancy, no split seconds, but it's definitely more than just 1 second, more than 1.36 seconds.
Why? I mean, is it because? Sorry, you may have already mentioned this, but because it's coming from rest, I feel like it takes a while to accelerate. I know you kind of accounted for that in the calculations, but it doesn't. I'm not questioning your math, but let's face it, you're an English professor, not a math.
That's fair. That's why I see the math for me. My understanding is that from rest, every 1 second, it adds about 30 feet per second, a little bit more, 32 feet per second. And if it falls for 2 seconds, it's going over 60 feet per second.
Maybe that's the rate, but maybe that's... Yeah, I don't know. I can't.
It's just, I can send you the information. I'm curious if anybody wants to look it up. But again, I timed it to be about 2.5 seconds. And that is twice as much as what he was counting. And, there's some room for okay, it's about 30 feet, but 100 feet, 2.5 seconds is quite a bit longer than just 1.3 seconds. So that's, and he's drunk, so maybe he's making it up as he goes, but I could not make that math make sense.
Well, I expect us to get some emails on this.
I'm hoping so. Make it make sense to me. Make my math degree shine, or my English degree, because I'm not a math major. I just, And maybe somebody can time it like a little bit differently and be like, it was actually 1.9 seconds. And if we like every like fraction of the sentence actually matters because I put it in differently, like at 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds, I left like something. Yeah. It all adds up very specifically.
I guess it's hard to like understand your calculator, like the calculator that you did, because I could literally just pick up something and drop something and it'll take like a second, and obviously didn't go 30 feet.
Yeah, my guess is with that, some of that's wind resistance, right? Air resistance. But also I bet like if you pick it up and drop it from here, like it's less than a second. It's probably like 0.4 of a second. I don't know what percent of a second.
True.
So like adding that extra half a second, like it starts accelerating more and it goes further and faster as it goes through that second. So at the beginning of the second, it's only going like 10 feet per second, but at the end of the second, it's going 30 feet per second.
Maybe there's some math that Leonard has actually put into account. Even though he's drunk, he's smart enough to know, like, okay, I know there's the bottle is this dense. It's being dropped from a stand, like,
the elevator terminal has denser air. Right? And the things I wanted to point out with this is we are specifically talking about Earth's gravity. Since we were talking about the moon having no gravity, the moon does have gravity. It's less gravity than the Earth's gravity, so things fall differently there. But because the atmosphere is so little, that was like one of the biggest experiments I remember in high school was watching the astronaut drop a bowling ball and a feather. And because there wasn't air resistance, they both hit the ground at the same time, which means gravity is the same for both of them. One falls more slowly just because it's drifting on the air.
Yeah, I remember they also did the same thing to illustrate wind resistance, where they put a feather on top of a book, and a lot of us predicted that the feather would just kind of like blow away as it's falling, but it fell at the same rate.
Science. Science. So yeah, my mathematics, which are not great, said no, he was wrong there, and he was drunk, so I'm not judging him. I said dumber things when I'm drunk, but if somebody can make it make sense to me, please email us anyways. Just say hi. Whatever.
I don't even care about the math. Just say hi.
Say you don't care. Talk about food. Have you had a good cantaloupe lately? Do you like pears? I don't know. Say hi. Okay, so he's dropped his bottle down the thing, the elevator shaft. He knocks at Penny's door and claims was perfectly happy, geeky, and lonely, and she's ruined him, much like he came over to her and said that he's ruined guys for her. And he says they are going to have sex, and it's going to mean nothing. And he tries to walk in. She pushes him out and says, "Are you out of your mind?" and slams the door on him. He goes home saying that there's some double standards. And again, I felt like this is kind of... she's absolutely allowed to say, like, get out of here, like, that's not going to happen. But the way it happens makes him seem like he's crazy and that this is acceptable. And I don't feel like her using him like that was acceptable, and I would have liked to get more from her mindset, because she just seems kind of callous now. Like, I take what I want when I want it. And that's not a character I want for Leonard. I don't like... That makes me think, like, don't be with her. Move on to somebody good. So it kind of hurt her character in a way that I didn't want to see the character dismantled. I don't know. Did that make sense?
Yeah. I feel like the first 3 seasons, I feel like the majority of the time when there was kind of an issue with Penny and someone else, especially Leonard, I feel like 95% of the time I'm Team Penny. But in this episode, I was definitely not Team Penny.
And I just don't believe that... I think we're supposed to know, like, she still has feelings for him. I want to see those. Maybe
you want to see
doesn't.
more fleshed out.
Yeah. And more hope for the relationship, I guess, because I don't know. Because I like romance. I don't know. I think you're right.
You'll have to wait and see what happens.
Usually I'm Team Penny. This time I felt like they belittled her character. And every other time she has shown that she actually cares more than... Like, even when he went to Antarctica, she closed the door last season and is saying, I wish he wouldn't go. But she is letting him go, not because she doesn't care, but because she needs him to go off and live his life and be fulfilled, right? And that's hard on her, but we see that it's hard on her. So I'd like to see what this does to her a little bit, as opposed to whatever. Sometimes I just have sex for fun. Like, I think it's more than that. I just fleshed out.
Yeah.
I'm going on a rant on that. I don't know why that hit me.
Well, no, you're right, because we kind of talked about it earlier, how like this episode had so much unnecessary filler. They could have filled it in with more Penny stuff.
We didn't need Prevening. We needed Penny.
Yes.
It's less Prevening, more Penny. Wow. There you go.
We just solved it.
We solved it. Yeah. Now let's have a cantaloupe celebration. Okay, so we move on. We're at the final scene. Sheldon, Howard, and Raj walk into a cafe. And Sheldon's talking about how does he gloat when this all falls apart. Walk in, Mayim, how do you pronounce her name? Bilak?
Mayim Bialik.
I'm going to... Yes, thank you. Mayim Bialik. Blossom, who is playing Amy Farrah Fowler. Fowler. Going to be a new recurring recurring star on the show, as far as I understand. That Sheldon is going to get a love interest, and that's who she is. And Sheldon says she's been taken in by faulty mathematics, and he's being blackmailed by a hidden dirty sock. I did love that addition. And she says she doesn't know if that's slang she's unfamiliar with, or if he's sincere. She also shares an aversion to soiled poisonery. I do like the way she says that. So apparently she's there because she's made a deal with her mom to date at least once a year. Sheldon's made the same deal with his mom to go to church, and they have a little discourse about deities. She says all forms of physical contract are off the table, including and up to coitus. And at that point, he goes, "Can I buy you a drink?" She says, "Tepid water." And they go out to get a drink. What was that?
He's into it.
He's into it. He's sold. Howard and Raj, I love the looks on their face, like pure acting that they know that they've, like, my thought is they've just written a computer program that is going to be self-growing, like some perpetual destruction that I don't know what the fuck they thought they were getting into.
No, it was all fun and games until this moment.
Until they realized something. This is and that's the episode. End of season 3.
There it is.
Except for the vanity card, which is a long one.
Do you want me to take it since you led the episode, or how do you feel?
I pushed the last couple off on you. Chuck Lorre Productions, 288. Over the years, CBS executives have always been very generous when it comes to sharing their ideas as to how I might better do my job. I have never returned the favor regarding how they might run their network. Until now. Now I have a really good idea. Step 1, create an internal division with workers who do nothing but check out the claims of prospective advertisers. And I mean really check them out. If it's a car, have somebody drive it around to see if it accelerates into walls or slow-moving pedestrians for no particular reason. If it's beer, have someone drink it and report back if it gets them laid. If it's a pill, have someone take it for a while, then wait to see if they grow a tail, get anal leakage, or commit suicide. Step 2, quality control. All commercials must be aesthetically pleasing, seriously funny, poignant, or dramatic. Any commercials deemed loud, stupid, and or obnoxious are not aired. Period. No exceptions. Step 3. Tell the world that CBS only airs the coolest and most honest commercials. It's always Super Bowl Sunday at CBS. Step 4. Watch the money roll in. A final thought. Don't worry about the initial loss of income created by dropping the dumb stuff, e.g., Cockney lizards who sell insurance. You'll more than make the money back by demanding that your high-quality advertisers cut you in for a piece of their action. You have, after all, earned it by giving them the CBS seal of approval. Another final thought. If you adopt my idea, my consulting fee is 1 million shares of CBS stock, or better yet, 100 shares of Apple stock. The end.
These rants.
These rants. He made me laugh at the commit suicide. That's horrible.
All right, let's count some points.
Okay. This episode took it home. I'm 102 points not like Sheldon, 100 like Sheldon.
Whoa. You're Ryan. You became yourself again.
I think I became Zach.
That would be great. Zach is great.
He seems like a good guy.
I really like his character.
No problem with him.
Well, all right. Any final thoughts?
I think that's it. Some great conversation. I said I watched the first episode of the next season. Hilarious. And just more room to grow for the characters, Sheldon and Amy. So excited.
Yep. Well, this concludes season 3. So like always, Ryan and I are planning on doing a recap episode in the next couple weeks. So the next episode will be our season 3 recap, where we're going to be going over some superlatives, best episode, best guest actor, favorite story arc, things like that. Things we liked about it, things we didn't like about it. And we also mentioned earlier this season, we will be looking into The Theorist, which is the
Russian
Belarus knockoff. Yep. I did start watching it.
If you're not on YouTube watching this, log into YouTube and look at Rob's face right now. It's
it's so hard to get through.
It's like a too juicy cantaloupe.
It's like an underripe dry cantaloupe.
Oh no.
We will get more into it at the next episode, so you better tune in. And if you get a chance, watch it on YouTube. Clips or the entire first episode is actually available on YouTube. So watch it and be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Send us what you think about it. And happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Stay safe out there. All right. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required. Our intro and outro music is by Alex Grohl. Thanks for listening.
Victor's a douchebag.